First of all, we want to thank all the fans, everyone that's tuned into this, everyone that's been supportive, and all our guests that came on. We've had some wonderful guys that came in and tell their stories and have been just a great part of this and an enjoyable part of us to do this. We are thankful for people following along and checking us out. If you have any questions, any requests, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you guys. Keep listening, keep telling us what you want to hear, and we'll continue to make content for you. We are going to do something special this week. We've had about 48 or 50 guests in a row, and so we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to do a quick recap about the weekend that we spent in Iowa City for the Indiana game, and we will be back soon.
Welcome to the Gallery and Hurley Unfiltered podcast, Iowa Football Rewind.
Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast player to get a behind-the-scenes look that you won't find anywhere else.
Okay, Sunday morning, we're at Brion's mom's house, East Iowa City. We're surrounded by cornfields. I'm not really sure where I am, to be honest.
Be comfortable back home. Feels like home.
Yeah, it does feel like home. I'm just glad I don't have to get up and work this morning. So
You can sleep in.
yeah, I get to sleep in. We just went to the Indiana game. Had a great time. Unfortunately, the Hawks lost. Hard-fought game, really fun to watch. Too bad it got away at the end, but yeah, really proud of the guys and how hard they played and how much they gave to it, how great the fans were, all the stuff. Yeah, stadium was rocking. A lot of fun. It was awesome to come back. Saw a lot of guys. Yeah. Brion, tell me, 85 team. Like, what was your thoughts, guys?
Yeah.
You saw it playing as a kid. You were 10 years old, and 85 1 and 2 in the nation. Like, talk to me about what that's like for you.
Yeah, that was why I really wanted to come back. When I heard that they were going to recognize the 85 team, that was the team, right? That was the time when you're like at your peak fandom, and at that age, right? Those are the kids that come to the stadium, and those are the ones that want the autograph, right? So it's a very impressionable time, and so I was like, I want to meet these guys that I remember growing up with. Those are our heroes. Those are the, we followed the professionals, but like these are the local guys that we could actually see and go to games and watch, right? I didn't go to Chicago or Minnesota or go to pro football games, so that's our professional team. I want to meet these guys. Some of them we met before, like Coach Long was our D-backs coach when we played, but there's a lot of other guys I hadn't seen or met. So, and with the podcast, I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to meet them and talk to them and get to know them a little bit.
Did you grow up close to the stadium? Where was your house compared to the stadium?
Not too far from here, but east side. So everything seems kind of close by. But my dad's connection with the football program, working security with Hayden, that was my real connection to the team. I didn't really get to meet that many players that I remember at that time. It definitely is an important part of growing up. And then just talking about Iowa football with my friends and classmates, that was the big talk, right? Number one, number two, look how good they're doing. And you have no background of this 20-year losing streak that was going on prior to Hayden getting here.
I'm guessing you guys are out in the backyard playing, and somebody's Chuck Long, somebody's Ryan Harmon, somebody's like
jerseys, t-shirts,
all that stuff. Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome.
How about in where you grew up? Was that a big deal? I know your family had Iowa State connections and stuff, but do you remember that like 85 season?
I don't know if I specifically remember the 85 season, but I was more Iowa State where my uncle was playing. I think I was young enough. I didn't really register. Mm-hmm. My brothers and I played in the backyard, and I had a Cowboys jersey. He had a 49ers jersey, so I think we were like more into those things. But it was on the radio, and I knew the names that had stuck, like the Quinn Earleys and the Chuck Longs and those type guys. I was definitely plugged into it some, but not probably quite as much as you guys were at that point. And I think we were working a lot too. As you mentioned that, we had more of a wrestling connection. My dad's niece was a manager at the Iowa State wrestling team. So Iowa State wrestling matches were huge back then. So if we did go to an event back then, I think it was an Iowa State wrestling match, which were epic as well, right? That was like the heyday of it, come to the end. It was the heavyweights were that had to win to do it. Yeah, just the great wrestling matches. That was part of our lives as well. A little more of the wrestling part. Talk to me more about the journey from you starting playing in the backyard to meeting these guys. I'm in a room with these legends. I wore the same jersey. It's got to be just an interesting viewpoint.
Yeah. So I think it was gradual enough, right? So you kind of go through high school and you're starting to get a little bit of interest from schools, and then Iowa might be interested, and then you meet some of the staff, and then you meet random players that would come through. You're slowly kind of meeting these guys, and With my dad's connection there, I had met some guys. We had like Jonathan Hayes over to our house one time because he was doing an internship or he was working with the county sheriff's department. So you get to meet a few people like that. And then after you leave, then you're in this brotherhood with the program. You have this built-in connection automatically. Oh, we played football together. Like instantly we've got this trust factor built, right? And then there was this gap though when Hayden left, when Ferentz came on, he was trying to establish his own program. And I think there was like a disconnect for a while with the past players. And we all went on and doing our own thing. And so only the last 10 or 12 years or so, they're trying to bring a lot of the players back together, having these events, which is great. So thanks to the football program, the legacy program, Ben Hansen and his staff and team, and Ferentz that are putting this together to bring everyone back together. So we have these opportunities to connect and meet everyone and leverage that connection and that bond and that networking, because I think that's going to be an important selling point. An important part of this program is like you've got these guys that we all went through the same journey and story, and because it's so rare that we had two coaches that did it very similar, that you have 50 years of players that kind of have the same mold that you go through. And being able to walk up to Ronnie Harmon, introduce themselves, and you have this bond, it's like, that seems crazy now, but it's like, oh, we're just automatically embraced, right? Just because we wore the black and gold. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, the community piece is great. It's, having that bond with those guys and, meeting them yesterday and having that instant bond and that instant brotherhood with them is really kind of amazing.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of the weekend?
It's just the conversations we had. And it wasn't always just the players. It was meeting their family and talking to them and, the support staff. So Deb Abbott, who was a secretary when we were there, she had an interesting story about Hayden and how they were staying late one time and she was printing out a bunch of letters to go out to recruits. And this is after the Rose Bowl. Hayden just kind of nonchalantly said to her, I knew we were going to go to the Rose Bowl. I didn't think it was going to be this quick. And it's just kind of a side comment in the middle of the night, and it's just like, there's really cool stories and things that people remember forever. Ed Crowley, I had a nice conversation with him. Luckily, I wasn't in the training room that much, but I knew how important he was to the program, and seeing Streif and a lot of the guys and the teams and managers and the support staff that, this isn't just Coach Fry, the coaching staff, and the players. It's like a whole program and infrastructure. And so it's always nice to be reminded of that. So I think it was like just a lot of small conversations with lots of people and getting different perspectives from everyone. That's my takeaway from this versus like a single moment exactly. But how about you?
I think just the whole thing, I think it was, like you said, I think a bit of little bits of things, meeting guys, seeing old friends and teammates and support staff and
The Van Hayden group at a tailgate.
Connecting in those ways, seeing what they're doing now, like how hard they're working and doing the same thing we were doing, just, trying to put in the work and put out a good product and be good people. And then connecting with fans that had been fans for 40 years and being excited about it. All those things, seeing family from start to finish. This is awesome. I guess for me is a little bit of, wow, how was I so lucky to be a small part of this? The thing I was most proud of or amazed by was how humble people were, right? How humble were, like, they just would,
you don't want to talk to me.
You don't want to talk to me, deflect. And I was just like, holy
wasn't
cow.
that good.
I was like, holy cow, these are really great athletes, really great people. They were so damn humble. It's wild to talk to someone and think that they're so accomplished and they were still so grounded in that. So I think that was a great part.
All right, team, listen up. There's a national blood shortage. Big Ten schools, how do we get students, fans, alumni to donate? Hit me. Give them merch. Not quite like that. Who can beat it? Chance of the President's Suite? Classy. Campus concerts. Keep the ideas coming, team. Don't let your school get one up. Save lives and help win your school $1 million. Hey, whose hand is that?
Hi, I'm Hayden Orrick, and I was the kid captain for the Ohio State game.
Hayden's story takes us back to 2016. She was diagnosed with ALL, which is a kind of leukemia. Hayden needed transfusions, platelets during her stay here at the university. 2.5 years wreaked havoc on her blood and on her body.
The blood donations is important because we're having college kids that could be doing so many other things with the college life. Giving blood to random people they probably will never see or hear from again in their lives. But while doing that, they're doing so much good in people's lives, and I am a true form of what blood donations can do for someone.
I did get to talk to Barry Alvarez. I've never met him before. And it's just an interesting perspective because here he is. He's a Hawkeye. He's a coach. He didn't play here, but he was instrumental in, turning that program around. And, we had this strange connection because, we played against his Wisconsin team. I told him, I'm glad we didn't have to play your 93 team that went to the Rose Bowl and won. And then he said some story about how he remembers coming back to Kinnick and Hayden, he said, ran up the score on him. And they were trying to figure out the year. And I think it was our senior year, 96. We won 31 zip. I don't think we ran up the score, but he remembers it that way. And maybe that's how coaches are driven, is they're going to turn it into some motivator. And he said, I saw them over there. They were laughing at us. And I took that to heart. And the next time I had a chance, I ran up the score on him. And I think he was talking about Ron Dane coming in and running for hundreds of yards against us. So I was like, I thought that was funny that they have this admiration for each other, but also they're driven and they're motivated and they're competitors. And you heard this in the Dan McCarney podcast, right? He's like, I know he ran up the score on me, and that's going to be motivation to get him back. And so it's this interesting dynamic that I picked up in the last couple of weeks between the coaches that it's not all roses all the time between them. And so it was interesting to kind of talk to him real briefly about that. And you can see they get pissed off at each other. And it wasn't they love Coach Fry all the time.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's interesting too, just the longevity of these people and just the number of people that they've been in contact with, right? The athletes over the years. I think people mention that, 43 years of just the breadth of people that they've touched and have dealt with and worked with, and the memories and the ability to, recall these things quickly is just just years and years of players and athletes and families. And it just, they're like, oh yeah, I remember this person and this, their uncle. And just that recall is pretty amazing. So I don't know if that's a prerequisite for a coach to be able to do those things or not, but I feel like that's an impressive part of just the amount of lives that they were kind of around and touched on.
We had after the game, we had this get together at the Marriott near the stadium. And it was this kind of extension of the night before, except some players couldn't make it in. They had personal obligations, family things, especially the local people. So it was another opportunity to get guys together and talk, and there was new faces that showed up. So I think it was cool that they had two separate events going on. So in case you couldn't make the first one, you could make the second. So some people made both, some people only made one of them. But that was another opportunity to kind of just hang out and talk and reflect and go deeper. And Paul Burmeister was there. He was covering the game for NBC Sports, so he couldn't make the Friday night event, but he came later after he was done with all his broadcasting requirements. And so, that's just good that they had different opportunities. It's not just a one thing. So just great job by the staff and program to put all that together and invite all the former players back, not just the 85 team only.
Yeah, exactly. The legacy program and the current program has done a great job with that. I think, as players, we need to be more involved with those things, right? Any of you guys are listening, reach out and, get more involved, come back to these games, get our community built up better and kind of reconnect. It was great to see, these 85 guys, right? There was almost 100 people connected with that, and just seeing them act like 18-year-old kids again, basically joking around and goofing around. It's just they're just big kids, right? It's 65-year-old kids they are. So that was funny. So I think we need to work on that part as a group, reach out and kind of connect if you want to get more involved in that part of it. And great work by all the people that put on the programs. It was a wonderful weekend, wonderful experience, and I think something we can only build on that way.
To all the players, they gave out a little duffel bag full of goodies and things that were there to recognize them. So that was pretty cool. And
I think, shirts that they'd mimicked from back in the day, I think, and then also a coat maybe or something like that. So that's some pretty nice swag. Man, I want to go to the Rose Bowl.
And then they honored, I think in the second quarter, they honored the team on the field. And so that was a good chance for the fans to give their love back to them and celebrate them. And I'm sure they'll have another celebration at some point when they get to, what year is that? 50-year anniversary. But it's always good to kind of reflect back on that. And it's easy to just overlook and go on with your life, but to pause and say, that was awesome. And let's remember things like that and remember the people that have died and are lost. And they had a little thing for some of the people who passed away, like Coach Fry, Coach Brazier, and been a couple players are no longer with us. I think it's always good in our busy lives to step back and reflect and just enjoy carving out a couple of days for us to travel. You know, it's the important stuff we got to make time for, and it's definitely worth it.
We've done this a year.
Yeah.
Right? About a year.
Yep.
What's your feelings about it? Surprises? Reflect on what's happened on the year. Let's do that.
We didn't really know what we were expecting going into it. I think this seems like an interesting thing. Let's take a shot at this and see how it goes, and we'll reflect back at this time. We've been tweaking on a lot of the behind the scenes stuff each time to try to figure out what's the best way to do this, what's the right format, what's the best way to edit this, get it posted, all those things. So
Yeah.
I think that's been really good learning. The conversations have been great. Just meeting the other guys, I think that's been my takeaway, is just how great it is to refresh those relationships or get to know people for the first time, just appreciate their story and background. And so I think that's been great, and hopefully everyone's enjoying hearing those. I know that the podcast can be a little long, but I think the long format is really good to really get into some of the depth of it. We can give you a 5-minute summary of their life, but that doesn't really get to the heart of, I think, what these stories tell is the journey and the struggle and the difficulties and how they overcome that. I mean, that's life, right? And so it's just a microcosm in a weird environment of college football that they're getting this. But if you look at the bigger picture of what they're saying, I think there's a lot of great takeaways that can help everybody in life, because these people are successful. They got through the program. It's not easy to do. There's a lot of people who don't make it to college football, who want to, or start off and don't get through all the way. And it's a challenge. So to hear the stories of these guys and what they overcame, and there's a lot to take away from there beyond just, oh, it's interesting, and to hear about stats and games. So I think that's the real big takeaways. There's common things that we're hearing that are applicable to everyone in their life, and life's difficult, and any inspiration you can get, and hearing stories of, like, if other people can overcome it and do it, then you can too. So hopefully that's coming through in some of these stories. How about you? What's your thoughts after 1 year doing this?
It's been great. It's been surprising. I just thought we would tell funny stories and everyone would have these little quirky stories that would be great, and that would be our kind of our podcast, and it would be entertaining, to be honest, to tell inside stuff, and they would talk about just little moments that were like no one else knew except for us. But I think it's gotten, like you said, more into life stuff, right? How to overcome, how to deal with adversity. And so it's almost like a how-to guide, and gotten really thoughtful, responsive, deep, in-depth conversations with people, which I'm glad that people trust us enough to share those things and to share with other people. It's great to give these guys an opportunity, or other people an opportunity, to see who they are and what kind of people they are. The real good, down-to-earth people that worked really hard, like have gone through a lot of stuff. So I think that's an amazing part of just being able to open that up for people. And, you know, yeah, the format is long, and it's, you know, I think that allows us to kind of really go where the conversation takes us. A lot of times I go into these things and I was like, I don't know if I know this person that well, and just their lives. It was like some really interesting stuff came out of what they'd done, where they were from, how that worked, little side roads that they'd taken in life. That part of it was amazing. I think just like getting that excitement and reconnection and community has been great. You know, seeing guys I hadn't seen in years, and really having a chance to, like we did this weekend, to go meet people and see people and say, I want to connect with you, and I should be connecting with you. Intentionality, maybe is what I'm saying, is intentionality of like, okay, let's connect as old teammates and people from the program, I think was an important thing for me. Yeah, it's been a learning experience. I think we'll go back to Ronnie Harmon again. He was like, oh, I don't want to do this, I'm shy. And I was like, we started this thing, I was terrified. So I think that's helped me grow as a person, grow speaking, grow publicly. It's been a challenge. I think it's been sometimes really hard to sit in front of the camera and watch myself. Do I sound did I ask the right questions? Did I respond correctly?
What did I actually say there? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it just came out like, oh yeah, somebody just told me something terrible, and I was like, oh yeah, nice. And I was like, yeah, that wasn't nice. So I think that's been a huge learning curve, trying to understand some of the promotion and some of the things we've done. So I think we're just learning, putting in the work. And I don't want to say glaring, but just like really highlighted lessons, I think, for us, of like, here's life, or never saw things from this angle. And like, Kinnick was loud. That was like imposing. That was, you know, it took me back to going to Ohio State as a junior, and sounds like kind of bouncing off the sound. And I was like, oh, that's really close to what that was.
If I was a opposing player, I'd be like, this is intimidating.
Yeah, it's
Definitely
like I
intimidating.
can't hear myself think, and like if I've got to get play going and just perform at that level, it's like this is a tough spot. And you know, we were down on the third row, so I guess it gave me more of that sense of like how much the crowd is sitting on top of you. I never had to think about that as a player there. It was an amazing atmosphere, don't get me wrong, but I think just seeing that from another level of like, wow, someone has to come in here and deal with this, and see that interception and see the whole crowd just lose their minds. It's hard to be like, well, how are you not into this stuff, right? How do you not get excited about this shit? So like that's part of it. It's been fun to reconnect with you, you know, and to go through these things and kind of figure out this process and do all that stuff. And so, yeah, it's been great. We'll see if people still want to continue to do it. And I think we've had some wonderful guests. I was talking with someone yesterday and I said, well, I was like, how's it going? It's like, oh, it's been great. And I was just like, I just started naming off all the people we got. And I was like, that's a roster. List, yeah. That's an impressive list, right? I'm glad that people are into this and are willing to do this for us. And I think it's...
We had different people that they mentioned too. Like, oh, I like that episode and I like this one. It wasn't like everyone liked one person, and they all got different things from different people. And
yeah, for sure.
I thought it was funny. One of our teammates, Hal Mady, said, if I had to pick two guys from the team who would be least likely to set up a podcast, it'd be you two. But then he said, but actually I take that back because you guys are the perfect ones for this, because you guys aren't over talking and you're just letting the guests speak and you're coaxing the conversation along. And so it's hard to get out of our comfort zone a little bit and get out there, but we're really just there to highlight the player and give them their recognition, and some of them you may never have heard of, and that's awesome because they deserve just as much kind of recognition and exposure. They all had a contribution to the team, whether it's on the field or it's behind the scenes. But
for sure,
yeah, their stories are important and should be told. That's what we're trying to do, is bring those stories out, and hopefully you guys all get to know them a little bit better, and for your own personal benefit or just to learn a little bit more about the guys that you grew up watching.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate the support. And here's to maybe 50 more.
Please share with others you know. Let them know about the podcast, even if they're not necessarily an Iowa fan. There's a lot to learn, as we said, about life in general and good stories and persistence and adversity and things that you could use for any situation you're in life. And it's not just about Iowa football, but definitely if you have a friend or know someone who's into college football, and especially if they like Iowa Hawkeyes, then definitely let them know and tell them about the podcast. We'd really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.